Hey everyone, and welcome back.
Well,
I'm really excited about today's deep dive
me too.
because so many of you have reached out wanting us to cover this topic.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to be tackling a pretty big question.
Yeah.
Cohabitation versus marriage.
Mm,
It's something that almost everyone faces at some point in their lives.
definitely at some point. Yeah.
And you guys have sent over some really fascinating research
Some great stuff.
that we're going to be digging into.
Really digging into it. Yeah.
One of the things that really jumped out at me
Mm,
was this idea that couples who live together before getting married
okay.
might actually be more likely to end up divorced.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to definitely explore that.
We should.
But before we jump into all the nitty-gritty details,
Right.
let's take a step back
Okay.
and define what we're actually talking about here.
Big point.
Cohabitation versus marriage.
Okay.
Two different ways of building a life together.
Yeah. Two very distinct paths.
But what are the core differences?
Well, one of the biggest is this idea of commitment
Commitment?
and also this idea of, legal recognition. So, think of cohabitation as like building a relationship on your own terms.
You're the boss.
Exactly. It's all about flexibility.
Okay.
No vows, no legal pressure.
Just two people choosing to share a life together?
Right.
It sounds kind of freeing in a way.
Definitely appealing for those who value their independence.
Right.
Not everyone's looking for that traditional path.
So what are some other advantages of going the cohabitation route?
Well, think about finances for a second.
Money always comes into play.
It does, because rent, utilities, groceries,
Sure, it's up.
big time.
Especially, these days.
Especially if you're just starting out or maybe facing financial challenges.
For sure.
So cohabitation could be a way to ease that burden.
Totally. Sharing expenses can make a huge difference.
Kind of like a financial safety net.
Exactly. It's like teamwork makes the dream work.
I like that. Right. You're pooling your resources, building a stronger foundation together.
One of the articles you sent even compared it to like a try before you buy sort of thing.
Ah, that's a good way to put it.
You get to test the waters
See if you're truly compatible in a day-to-day sense.
before making that big leap.
Right, because living together, it's a whole different ballgame.
Than just dating.
Exactly. You see all sides of each other.
Warts and all.
Exactly, warts and all.
But you mentioned earlier that cohabiting couples might actually be less satisfied in their relationships,
Yeah, that's what some of the research suggests.
which seems counterintuitive, right?
I know, it's like, why wouldn't you be happier?
If you're building things on your own terms.
Right, you'd think so.
So what's the deal with that?
Well, here's the thing about that trial run concept.
Okay.
While it can be liberating,
All that freedom.
exactly, it can also create a sense of insecurity,
Ah, I see.
especially if one partner is like way more committed than the other.
Oh, yeah, that could definitely cause problems.
Mhm. It can lead to doubts about the future.
Like, are we on the same page here?
Exactly. Is this going anywhere?
Is this just temporary?
Right? Are we heading in the same direction?
Those are big questions.
Huge, and it can really mess with your head.
Create a lot of anxiety.
Definitely. And it's not just speculation.
No.
Studies have shown that cohabiting couples tend to report lower relationship satisfaction
Yeah,
than
yeah.
married couples.
Oh, wow.
And they're also more likely to break up.
Really? Even if they've been together for a while?
Even when you factor in things like age and length of the relationship.
That's pretty surprising.
It is, and it makes you wonder,
What's going on there?
what is it about cohabitation that might contribute to these outcomes?
Is it just the lack of commitment, or is there more to it?
Well, one factor that's often overlooked is the legal side of things.
Ah, the legal stuff.
Yeah, because when a cohabiting relationship ends, it can get messy fast.
I bet.
Because unlike marriage, there isn't a clear legal framework to protect individuals when it comes to, shared assets,
Oh, yeah.
finances, child custody.
Yeah, this sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It can be, especially if things end badly.
And one of the articles you sent mentioned a case
Yeah, a really tough one.
where a couple lived together for years.
Built a business together,
Oh.
even had a child together.
And then
They split up.
Oh, no.
And it turned into this huge legal battle
For what?
over who owned what and who had rights to the child.
Oh, my gosh. That's heartbreaking.
It was, and it just highlights the importance of really understanding the potential legal ramifications
Before moving in with
and
someone.
making that decision.
Yeah, because it's not just about love.
Right, there are practical and legal realities to consider.
Definitely cohabitation isn't something to be taken lightly.
No, it's a big step.
But what about the flip side?
Marriage.
Yeah, marriage. What are the advantages of taking that plunge?
Well, for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
marriage represents a deeper level of commitment. It's like a public declaration of love and a shared vision for the future.
You're in this together.
Exactly, through thick and thin.
And that sense of security can be really powerful.
Incredibly, both for the individuals and for the relationship as a whole.
It's like building that house on solid ground.
Exactly, a strong foundation.
It's less likely to crumble under pressure.
Right, marriage can offer a sense of stability.
But let's be real.
Okay.
Marriage isn't always a fairy tale.
No, it's not.
What about the downsides?
What makes people hesitate?
Yeah, what are the things that might make someone think twice about getting married?
Well, one big one is the fear of feeling trapped.
Trapped, okay.
Like losing your sense of individuality.
Yeah, I can see that.
That permanence of marriage.
Forever.
Yeah, it can be daunting, especially for people who really value their independence.
Or worry about what happens if things don't work out.
Right, because let's face it, divorce is a reality.
Sadly, yeah.
And it's rarely easy,
No, it's not.
both emotionally and financially.
So while marriage offers that sense of security,
Yeah.
it also comes with a higher cost of exit.
If things go south.
That's a good way to put it.
And it's not just about the legal and financial complexities. There's also this societal pressure
Yeah.
to stay together,
Even if you're unhappy.
even in an unhappy marriage.
Wow.
And the stigma surrounding divorce
Yeah.
can make it really difficult for couples to leave,
Even when it's the healthiest choice.
even when it's the best thing for everyone involved.
So it's not just about signing a piece of paper.
No, it's not.
It's about navigating a whole set of expectations.
And potential consequences.
Wow, so cohabitation versus marriage.
Yeah,
It's not a simple decision.
not at all. It's complex.
It's like choosing a path with multiple forks in the road,
And each fork can lead to a very different destination.
depending on your values,
Your priorities.
your willingness to compromise.
Exactly.
So how do we even begin to navigate this?
It's a lot to think about.
It is, how do we figure out which path is right for us?
Well, that's where self-awareness comes in.
Self-awareness, okay.
And open communication with your partner.
So talking about it.
Big time. And I'm not talking about just surface-level chats.
Like, hey, what do you want to do?
No, we're talking about diving deep
Deep conversations.
into those sometimes uncomfortable conversations.
Okay.
About your hopes, your
That's
fears,
the traits.
your long-term vision for the relationship.
So it's not just about deciding whether to move in together or get married.
Right.
It's about understanding why.
The why behind that choice.
What are we hoping to gain?
What are we willing to risk
What does a fulfilling life together look like?
for each of you?
That's a lot to unpack.
It is, and this is where things can get a bit tricky.
How so?
It requires vulnerability.
Vulnerability, okay.
A willingness to expose those tender parts of yourselves.
To be open and honest.
And the courage to potentially confront some conflicting desires.
Ooh, yeah, that could be tough.
It can be, because you might discover that you and your partner aren't as perfectly aligned as you initially thought.
Oh, that could be a game changer.
It could, and these conversations, they shouldn't be a one-time thing.
This is an ongoing process.
Exactly, because relationships are constantly evolving.
Always changing.
So it's crucial to keep those lines of communication open
Be talking.
and revisit these questions periodically
Like check in.
as you grow and change together.
It's a journey.
Exactly, not a debt.
Like a road trip.
Love that analogy.
You got to check in with your co-pilot.
Make sure you're both still on the same page.
Make sure your map is still accurate.
And adjust your route if needed.
Flexibility is key.
Totally. You got to be willing to adapt.
So are there specific questions we can ask ourselves and our partners
Ooh, good question.
to get these conversations flowing in the right direction?
Yeah, beyond the basic, like, do you want to move in? Or will you marry me?
Right, because those are big questions.
Huge, and they can feel really overwhelming.
If you haven't explored those underlying motivations,
And expectations.
so where do we even begin?
Well, one fundamental question is, what does commitment mean to each of us?
Oh, that's a good one.
And this goes beyond just the romantic feelings.
Deeper than that?
It's about understanding how you each define commitment in a practical sense.
Both.
Are you both willing to put in the work,
The effort.
day in and day out,
To nurture the relationship.
to navigate challenges,
Prioritize each other's needs,
even when it's tough?
even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly.
That's real commitment.
It is. And if one partner isn't truly ready for that level of dedication, it can create a recipe for resentment down the line.
Yeah, resentment and disappointment.
And heartbreak.
So actions speak louder than words.
They do. It's one thing to say, I'm committed,
But it's another to actually show it.
through your actions and behaviors.
So how can we tell if someone's not truly ready to commit,
Good question.
even if they say they are?
Pay attention to patterns of behavior.
Patterns. Okay.
Are they constantly canceling plans? Do they dismiss your concern?
Or refuse to compromise.
Are they unwilling to talk openly and honestly about difficult issues?
It's about noticing those inconsistencies,
Between their words and their actions
because ultimately commitment is about showing up,
for a relationship,
even when it's not easy.
even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable.
So if someone's consistently falling short,
In that department,
it might be a sign that they're not ready,
for that level of responsibility
Ready.
that a long-term commitment requires.
whether it's through cohabitation or marriage.
Exactly.
So commitment is a big one.
Huge.
What are some other crucial topics to explore before making this decision?
Well, finances are always a biggie.
Money, money, money.
It's often a major source of conflict in relationships.
I can see that.
So it's essential to have open and honest conversations about money,
Early on,
like from the get-go,
before you even think about moving in together.
or getting married.
So how do you each approach money?
Do you have similar financial goals?
Spending habits,
Are you comfortable with the idea of shared accounts?
joint responsibility.
These are important things to consider.
Yeah, it's not the most romantic dinner table conversation,
It's not, but it can make or break a relationship
especially when you're sharing a life.
and potentially merging finances
So financial compatibility is key.
for long-term success.
And it's not just about income level.
Right. It's about shared values and priorities when it comes to money.
Are you a saver or a spender?
Do you prioritize experiences or material possessions?
Are you comfortable talking openly and honestly about money?
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It is, because money represents so much more.
Than just dollars and cents.
It reflects our values and anxieties.
About security, freedom, responsibility.
All of that.
And these conversations are especially important.
When deciding between cohabitation and marriage,
Yes.
marriage often comes with more legal and financial entanglements.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it's crucial to be on the same page.
From the beginning.
Absolutely.
And speaking of legal and financial entanglements, we touched on this earlier, but it's worth repeating.
Okay.
Marriage creates a specific legal framework for your relationship,
It does,
which can be both a blessing and a curse.
depending on the situation.
How so?
On the one hand, marriage provides certain legal protections
Okay.
and benefits.
That cohabiting couples don't have.
That's right. But on the other hand,
Uh-oh.
it limits your flexibility in certain areas
Okay.
and can make separating much more complicated.
And costly.
Exactly. So it's crucial to understand those legal implications.
Before making a decision,
Absolutely do your research.
talk to a lawyer if you need to.
Make sure you both fully understand what you're getting into.
Don't just rely on assumptions.
Or hearsay.
Get the facts.
And don't forget about the emotional implications.
Oh, yeah, those are important too.
Because marriage, with its long history...
In all the traditions.
Exactly. It often carries a heavier weight of societal expectation,
Ah, yeah, that pressure.
which can impact your relationship in both positive and negative ways.
So it's not always a good thing.
Not always.
You're talking about the pressure to conform.
To certain roles, expectations.
Timelines.
Like, when are you getting married?
When you're having kids.
Those questions can be so intrusive.
And annoying.
Totally. And those pressures can be even more intense.
In certain cultures or religious communities,
Where marriage is seen as more than just a personal choice.
it's like a societal obligation.
Exactly.
So it's important to be aware of those external pressures.
And how they might be influencing your decision.
Are you choosing this path because it feels right for you and your partner?
Or are you trying to please others?
Conform to societal norms.
That's a big question to ask yourself.
Because ultimately, this decision should be about what's best for your relationship.
Not about meeting external expectations.
Or fulfilling someone else's vision of what your life should look like.
That's right. It's your life.
So we've covered commitment.
Finances.
Legal implications.
Societal expectations.
What else should we be thinking about?
Well, lifestyle compatibility is another big one.
Lifestyle compatibility.
Okay. Do you share similar values and priorities?
When it comes to
Things like career aspirations,
leisure activities.
social circles.
Like, are we homebodies or social butterflies?
Do we prioritize adventure or stability?
Do our friends and family get along?
These might seem like small details
But they can have a big impact,
on your day-to-day happiness.
especially when you're sharing a living space.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just shared interests.
Yeah.
It's about understanding each other's needs.
For space,
Alone time.
Social connection.
Can you coexist comfortably?
Respect each other's boundaries.
Support each other's individual pursuits.
While also nurturing your shared life.
It's a delicate balance.
Like a dance.
I love that a dance, not a dictatorship.
Finding that rhythm together.
The balance of individuality and togetherness.
It's
It is. And remember, those needs can change over time.
Oh, yeah. What worked in the beginning?
Might not be sustainable in the long run.
That's so true.
Like maybe in the honeymoon phase,
You were inseparable.
you wanted to spend every waking moment together.
But now you both need a little more space,
A little more independence.
and that's totally normal.
It is, but it's important to be able to communicate those evolving needs.
Adapt to the changes.
So flexibility and a willingness to compromise
Those are key ingredients.
for a successful relationship.
So it's not just about finding someone who perfectly matches your current lifestyle.
No, it's about finding someone who's willing to grow and adapt alongside you.
As you navigate life's inevitable changes,
Exactly.
and who's willing to have those tough conversations.
About those changing needs and desires
Recognizing that a healthy relationship is an ongoing process.
of communication, negotiation, mutual respect.
Wow, we've covered a lot of heavy stuff today.
We have.
Commitment, finances,
Oh.
legal implications, societal expectations.
Lifestyle compatibility?
But let's not forget the most fundamental element of any relationship, love.
Oh, yes, love.
Where does that fit into all of this?
That's a great question.
Because we can talk all day about the practical stuff,
The logistic.
but at the end of the day,
Relationships are about connection.
intimacy.
That special spark.
That makes you want to build a life with someone.
Exactly.
And that's what we'll be exploring in part 2 of this deep dive.
Can't wait.
We'll delve into the role of love and intimacy
And emotional connection.
in navigating this decision.
Cohabitation versus marriage.
Because while all these practical considerations are important,
They are.
love is ultimately the fuel.
That keeps the relationship engine running.
So stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get really juicy.
Juicy indeed.
All right, so we're back and ready to dive even deeper.
Deeper into the heart of the matter.
Exactly, because we left off talking about love,
Oh.
the fuel that keeps those relationship engines running.
The heartbeat of it all.
But how do we make sure that love is strong enough
Strong enough for what?
to handle the big decisions?
You mean like cohabitation versus marriage?
Exactly. How do we know if our love can go the distance?
Well, it's not a simple answer.
I bet it's not.
But your research highlighted some really interesting points.
Okay, like what?
Well, first off, love isn't just a feeling.
It's more than just butterflies.
It's deeper than that.
So what is it then?
It's an action, a choice,
A choice we make every day.
to nurture and prioritize our relationship.
So it's not about the grand gestures.
Not just the romantic dinners and vacations.
It's about the little things.
the everyday stuff.
Like how we treat each other.
The respect we show.
The sacrifices we're willing to make.
Even when it's not easy.
Even when we're not feeling those warm, fuzzy feelings.
Exactly. Because real love,
The kind that lasts.
it's about showing up for your partner.
Even when it's inconvenient.
Even when you're tired.
Even when you disagree.
Because you're choosing to see the best in them.
Even when they're not at their best.
And you're choosing them.
Every single day.
Year after year.
And that choice should be based on really knowing them.
Inside and out.
The good, the bad, the whole package.
Because real love isn't about ignoring their flaws.
It's about accepting them. Imperfections and all.
And choosing to love them anyway.
That's powerful.
It is, and it takes work.
Love is not a passive thing.
It requires effort,
Communication.
compromise,
A willingness to grow.
both individually and as a couple.
So how does this tie into the cohabitation versus marriage decision?
Well, if you're feeling pressured to commit,
Before you're truly ready,
or if you have doubts about your partner's level of commitment,
it might be a sign to pump the brakes.
to slow down and really reassess
Because rushing into something you're not ready for.
whether it's cohabitation or marriage.
It's like building a house on sand.
It might look okay at first.
What is not going to hold up in the long run. So how do we know if our love is built to last?
How do we test its strengths?
Are there signs we can look for?
Well, think about how you feel in the relationship.
Okay.
Do you feel safe? Secure?
You could be yourself
completely authentic.
without fear of judgment
Do you celebrate each other's wins?
and offer support during tough times,
Do you encourage each other's dreams?
even when they're different from your own.
And this is a big one.
Okay.
Do you feel truly seen and heard by your partner?
Like they really get you.
Exactly. Like they understand you at your core.
Those are some pretty powerful indicators.
They are, because those are the hallmarks of a love.
That can withstand anything.
The ups and downs, the challenges, the disagreements.
And come out stronger on the other side.
A love that's worth fighting for.
No matter what path you choose.
Cohabitation or marriage.
What matters most is finding a relationship.
That brings you joy.
Fulfillment.
A deep sense of belonging.
And that, my friends,
is what it's all about.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive.
The grand finale.
And we spent the last 2 parts talking about all practical stuff.
The nitty-gritty details.
But now it's time to talk about something a little bit more,
A little more what?
a little more touchy-feely.
You mean?
Love.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, all of this boils down to
A love.
Because
you can have all the shared values in the world.
Financial compatibility.
Perfect alignment on paper.
But if you don't have love, it's kind of like...
Like what?
A house without a heart.
Oh, that's a good one.
It might look good from the outside, but it's not going to feel like home.
No, it won't.
And love is that fuel.
That keeps the engine running.
It's what gives us the strength
to get through the tough times.
To celebrate the good times.
To weather those inevitable storms.
But love can be such a slippery concept.
Yeah, it's hard to define.
So how do we know?
How do we know?
If the love we feel is strong enough.
To sustain a long-term commitment.
Whether it's through cohabitation or marriage.
That is the million-dollar question.
It is. So how do we even begin to answer that?
Well, one thing your research really emphasized is that love isn't just a feeling.
More than butterflies.
It's an action. A choice.
A choice we make every day.
To nurture our relationship.
To prioritize our partner. Even when it's hard.
Exactly. Love is about showing up.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Even when you're tired or stressed.
Even when you're disagreeing.
It's about choosing to see the best in your partner.
Even when they're not at their best.
And it's about choosing them.
Every single day.
Day in and day out.
Year after year.
And that choice.
That choice.
Should be based on really knowing them.
Knowing who? Deeply knowing them.
Inside and out.
The good, the bad, the whole package.
Because real love...
The kind that lasts.
Isn't about ignoring their flaws.
It's about accepting them.
Embracing them.
Choosing to love them anyway.
That's what true love is.
And that kind of love takes work.
It's not a passive thing.
It's a conscious effort.
It's about communication compromise.
A willingness to grow.
As individuals and as a couple.
So how does this relate back to our big question?
Cohabitation versus marriage.
Does the type of love we feel
influence our decision?
Well, it's not a simple equation.
No, it's not.
But if you're feeling pressured to commit...
Before you're truly ready.
Or if you have doubts...
about your partner's level of commitment.
It might be a sign to slow down.
To take a step back.
To really think about what you want.
And what you need.
Because rushing into a commitment...
Whether it's cohabitation or marriage...
without that solid foundation of love...
it's like building a house on sand.
It's not going to last.
It's going to crumble eventually.
So how do we know if our love is strong enough?
How can we test it?
Are there signs we can look for?
Well, think about how you feel in the relationship. Do you feel safe, secure?
Supported.
Do you feel comfortable being your true self?
Without fear of judgment.
Do you celebrate each other's successes?
Offer comfort during tough times.
Encourage each other's dreams.
Even when they're different from your own.
And this is a big one. Do you feel truly seen and heard by your partner?
Like they really get you.
Exactly. Like they understand you at your core.
Those are some pretty powerful indicators.
They are, because those are the signs of a love.
That can withstand anything.
The ups and downs, the challenges, the disagreements.
And come out stronger on the other side.
A love that's worth fighting for.
Worth nurturing.
No matter what.
Whether you choose cohabitation or marriage.
What matters most
is finding a relationship.
That brings you joy.
Fulfillment.
A deep sense of belonging.
And that's what it's all about.
Finding that connection.
A special bond.
That makes life worth living.
So as we wrap up this deep dive
into cohabitation versus marriage,
what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I want them to remember that this is a deeply personal decision.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Only the path that feels right for you.
For your values, your needs.
And the unique love you share.
So trust your instincts.
Have those tough conversations.
And never stop nurturing the love.
That binds you together.
Because that love
is the foundation
for a truly fulfilling life.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.